King es la compañía creadora de un mega éxito, como fue en su día, y sigue siendo Candy Crush, pero es un estudio que hace muchas más cosas. Hoy vienen en nombre de King, Delphine, Sassi y Carmen, Hevia, que nos van a hablar de... bueno, yo digo el título de su conferencia y les dejo a ellos la sorpresa. We turn science into magic. Os dejo con ellos, que espero que estén preparados, porque si no voy a tener que seguir aquí hablando un rato. Y nos vemos dentro de muy poquito aquí en el Fan Series.
Okay, so we are ready. I hope you can hear us.
We do.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm Delphine. I'm head of the lab at King. I've been at King for 7 years. I actually celebrated my 7th anniversary last week. And I worked on several titles at different stages of production. So from prototyping to running live games. And today I'm delighted to share this presentation about turning science into magic with Carmen. Carmen and I met about 4 years ago, and since then we have been working together on different projects, and it has been a real pleasure. So Carmen, tell us a bit more about you.
So hi, I'm Carmen, and I'm the principal UX designer in the lab. I am currently leading product design, which includes game design, UX design, UI design, and art. Since I started at King, I've been bringing a user-centered approach to different teams, adapting their processes and giving them tools and improving their design mindset.
And today we'll talk about the story of how we got where we are today, how we passed the levels, overcoming blockers, making mistakes on the way, and what we have learned along this journey. Because yes, as Marshall Goldsmith says in his book, what got you here won't get you there. You need to constantly unlearn and relearn, reinvent yourself, and continuously seek improvements for you and for your team.
Okay, so let's get started. Level 1. So Delphine, which game mode are we playing?
Our saga adventure starts with Diamond Diaries Saga, a linker game which we were about to launch. We had a very tight deadline to reach, and we weren't really getting where we were targeted. So here are some insights into the blockers we encountered and the mistake that we made. The first problem we were facing was our retention. It was too low for us to launch the game, and we couldn't understand why. In theory, the core mechanic wasn't too complex to get, and the team was having fun while playing. So how can we fix something without knowing precisely what to fix? Another blocker that we faced is that we didn't have a clear vision of the game. I'm sure that the game developers attending today's presentation will relate to that. You have very tight deadlines, you need to deliver quickly, and in this crazy net of short-term goals, sometimes you forget to stop, step back, and bring some perspective. And as a consequence, we didn't have a clear plan, and we followed our gut. We had no narrative, no long-term goals for the players, no framework, and no guidelines for the team. And that was preventing us to build a consistent experience for the players and internally to make a decision. It was very hard. And last but not least, we were designing following our mental model and basing our designs on previous experiences as game developers. The team we have built at the time was a team of quite experienced people, and no one was questioning the design that we were building. And when analyzing why we wouldn't get a better retention, the team was quite clueless about how to fix the problem. And I kept hearing comments like, come on, the game is not that difficult to understand. I have no idea what I could do better, to fix the retention. We were in an impasse. We didn't know what the hell was going on. We didn't have a clear vision of how to build a consistent experience for our players. And we were kind of blindly following our own mental model, sticking to how we got used to design. So Carmen, it will be interesting to hear from you. How did we manage to turn the ship around? What did we do to pass this level?
So, given this context, we realized that we needed to look at the problem from another standpoint. So apart from relying mostly on quantitative data, we introduced qualitative data analysis. As for the quantitative data, it gives the team the number of players leaving the game at a specific level, for example, right? But while qualitative data could answer the whys. So why did the players leave? Was it because it was difficult, or they didn't understand how to play the game? This is the key to understand the reasons behind these numbers. So let me tell you the story about how we started bringing players closer to our teams. 4 years ago, while we were working in the game Diamond Diary Saga, we started to do focus groups and user tests with players in Barcelona. As humans, we have a systematic error in thinking that affects our decisions and judgments. When we see players giving feedback about our games, a bias called the fundamental attribution error pops up. This fundamental attribution error is the tendency to overemphasize personal characteristics and ignore situational factors in judging others' behavior. An example is when a member of the team is watching a player struggling with the game and says things like, this player is making a mistake because they are tired, they are frustrated, and this error makes us blame our players. But when it's your mother or somebody else's mother, the one playing, you couldn't dare to say that. So by the way, this is Paul, one of our great developers, with his mother. So based on this idea, we asked our team to invite their family, especially mothers, to come to our offices. We brought some snacks, we asked them to play the game, and they gave us their feedback. So what an eye-opener. So after this great experience, the team was even more motivated. It was an enriching experience that had a very powerful impact on the team. Also, our mother's very useful feedback helped us to come up with very specific ways to improve the game experience. So overall, this initiative brought the team closer together. Another interesting method is the one called love letters. Love letters, it's a low-cost method that gives an emotional value to players' feedback. It's a beautiful way to explore their relationship with our games as if they were a real person. So how it works? You ask your player to consider the game a partner with whom they have a romantic relationship. Then they write a letter to it. They can explore the qualities they love so much, how it makes their day better, and all the reasons why. So love letters helped the team understand the role that our games have in our players' life. The relationship that our players have with our games was stronger than we thought. They are part of the daily routines, and sometimes they even treat our games as if they were real people. I will always remember a player saying, so when it takes more than 1 week to pass the level, what's what I do? I get so frustrated that I punish the game and stop playing for a few days. So it was awesome. And now let's see how we tackle the blocker of not having a clear vision. You may think that when we talk about having an experience vision, we are talking about having a specific objective that the team needs to reach. It may even sound as something similar to a game vision, in which you define all the features that you want the game to have. But the experience vision is not a specific objective, it's a direction. An experience vision is an idea of what the experience you are creating will look like for the player. Like any good idea, it can evolve, it can grow or change if needed as it matures. So who are the ones that restored to an experience vision and managed to reach the top of levels of innovation? Apple. So these are the images of a video that they created to show the experience vision that they wanted their users to have. And they did it back in 1987. So in this video, you can see how a professor is preparing his class using what they call the knowledge navigator. They predicted many things, such as internet, video calls, action using only voice and touch. But the most interesting fact of this video is that it didn't specify how the design will achieve that outcome. So if you watch closely, you can see that there is like very little detail on the UI or the mechanics of the professor's work. So I add a link to the video if you want to watch it later. And finally, we built empathy to solve the problem of bias designs. Empathy helps designers to forget about their own assumptions in order to understand our players' mental models, needs, and problems. But empathy is also linked with putting yourself inside of the game context and narrative. So being able to really get under the skin of your main character and truly understand the world that he or she is in will help the design, it will help design cohesive designs. So a few years ago, the team did a yearly workshop to put ourselves in the shoes of the main character, Lucy, a yearly apprentice that also helped us to understand the steps of designing yearly. As you can see for my crazy face in the picture, we played with fire and it was awesome. And we made our own silver piece. So it was great. So the closer your design is to true life, the more it helps players to relate to the game and the more they will be connected with this context and narrative.
Wow, that was a tough level. Fortunately enough, we have more life in that saga, so we will go to the next level.
Okay, so which game mode are we playing now?
We are playing what we call the Pegasus Mod. So the setup at the time was the following. We were a team of about 45 people working in the famous Candy Crush Soda saga from Barcelona with a core team based in Stockholm. So in that level, we'll talk about the challenges we faced while working on Candy Crush Soda saga, which, by the way, is my favorite match 3. And Carmen will run us through the blockers because I don't want to be the one talking about the blockers all the time.
Okay, I will go for it. Okay, so working on a game that has been in the top 10 for more than 5 years with millions of players is a huge responsibility. So when you design a game from scratch, yeah, the sky is the limit, but when you are working in a live game, you need a different mindset. So through the years, the amount of content rocketed and we kept growing. So what you add should be deeply, deeply thought. On top of that, you need to understand that our players are used to the game as it is. You need to be aware that our players have been playing the game as it since the beginning, and that any change will break their daily routines a bit. So at Keen, we really respect and care our players. So trying to bring innovation in a live game could be a challenge. In the previous level, if you remember, we shared how we started to get closer to players. During these sessions with players, we collected tons of useful information that was wasted at the end because we were focused on solving the specific designs needed for that specific release. The same was happening with in this new Candy Soda level. With all of these constraints, it was difficult to define a roadmap that could bring impact to the game. So Delphine, what did we do about it?
So to fix the first blocker, which was having, as Carmen mentioned, a very mature game with many features, we look at what we could optimize instead of only adding and piling up more and more features. We have a tendency to add things while looking to create impact, but that has a cost. And sometimes you really damage the player experience by doing so. And ultimately you damage the retention. So what about cleaning what you have first? Seeking like small opportunities to make the game better. Let me tell you a story to talk a bit about that. So this feature is called Mr. Toffee's Fair. And it's like a bingo where you need to complete lines together with others. So looking at the data, we realized that players weren't really finishing the lines. And it seemed that they were literally avoiding some of the quests. So we decided to talk to our players to validate this assumption that we had. And I remember perfectly one player saying that he really hated the quest where he had to use a booster because in some ways we were forcing him to buy this booster. So we made a very small tweak. We just removed that quest from the board. And looking at the data again, we saw that players were now finishing the lines. So we nailed it. And that's great. We found one way to work in a mature live game, making optimizations. But how did we overcome what Carmen mentioned as well about players being used to play the game for years? And in order to find the optimizations that really matter, we started to look at the LeanUX framework. And what did we learn from this method? Well, that before jumping into solution, you need to start with what is the problem that you really want to solve, or what is the opportunity that you want to explore. And only after that, you can write a hypothesis that is not only a Y-liner design as we were doing before, but also includes a clear measure of success. And also very importantly, what's in it for the player? What's the benefit of what you are going to build? And finally, you need to find what's the minimum design that will validate this hypothesis. So maybe by now you think that we nailed it again, but the reality is that no, we didn't. The design cannot stop at the MVP. The process cannot be linear, or I mean, it could be, but is it the best thing to do? With the sense and response framework, what you do is that you collect learning from the beginning. And by building small iterations, you understand what's working and what's not. And you are able to decide if to stop, iterate, or pivot. If you stop at the MVP stage, as we showed before, ship the experiment, and then don't do anything with the learning, then the learning is wasted.
Well, so we have like one more level passed. So should we move on to our last level?
Yeah, let's do it. Carmen, tell us a bit more about the context of this level.
Okay, so we are already in level 1000, right? And the game mode of this level, it's called the lab. As you can see, you know, in Delphine's t-shirt, wearing the logo, the lab is our current team, and we introduced at the beginning. In this game mode, we experiment with 5 king games that we own. So let's see what are the challenges ahead.
Okay, I'll talk on this one, the status quo. It's a big challenge. People are usually very reluctant to change, as it's easier to stay in your comfort zone. And I often hear, why are we changing that if it's working for us? Okay, then I will have the follow-up question for you. Is it the best we can do? Status quo is very dangerous, and it can really make you lag behind competitors. So we had to do something about that. Carmen, tell us a bit about this challenge, which was also a big one.
Sure. So in the previous levels, we were working on a specific game, right? But now we need to innovate in specific topics, but without being focused on a specific game. So how to switch from the product being a game, as Diamond Diaries Saga or Soda, to the product being a problem statement or a business opportunity. Like, for example, how to make our games a place where players can make the world a better place. I will hand over to you that one.
Working in silos. So our process was still pretty much waterfall when we started to work on the lab. Each phase was depending on the deliverables of the previous ones and corresponded to a specialization of tasks. So for example, first, designers will work and make their design. Then artists will do the UI and the art. Then developers will implement and so on. So that made us quite slow and created dependencies on others. It didn't work. So let's look a bit in more details. How did we overcome these 3 challenges? And how did we create an environment and a way of working in which we could easily and rapidly adapt to change? And starting with the status quo, if you go to the next slide, yeah, perfect. Well, people can deal with change if you explain why you are changing. And in the lab, change is part of our mindset, processes, and structure. So everyone understands that we are in a context of millions of apps and games launched every day. A context where if you don't move fast, you lose. So we are organized in a way that makes us very flexible and adaptive to change. We have small cross-functional and empowered teams that are autonomous and can make quick decisions on their own. I highly recommend this great tech talk, by the way, by Simon Sinek, that you can see here, about the importance of starting with why.
And from our next blocker, what we learned is that research is not validation, or not only validation. So user research is not only performing user tests to check if a feature works, which unfortunately is a common fallacy, but user research is much more. As Delphine has just explained, we work in a constantly changing environment, surrounded by a lot of uncertainties. So I'm going to share two key concepts: foundational research and evaluative research. So before you start thinking about the specific solutions, you need to stop and really understand the problem. So for example, make our games a place where players can make the world a better place. Foundational research helps to frame the relevant problem to be solved and gather evidence about players' motivations, needs, mindset. And evaluative research is the one that will move you forward once you already have a direction to go.
Okay, last but not least, what did we do about working in silos? Processes and structure don't do the job, people do. Yes. And we believe that there is no great team without a strong culture. A strong culture that brings a sense of belonging, a sense of unity, and that makes you feel part of something bigger. It's important that the team is involved in creating the culture. So, for example, Mark, one of our data scientists, shows the name of the team, the lab. And here you can see Jordi, our agile test lead, wearing the t-shirt and showing off a bit the great goodies we recently received. So how is that relevant when talking about change? And why do we believe that a strong culture is important? Well, a strong culture makes you feel that we are all on the same boat. And if we decide to shift direction, which happens quite often, we all shift direction. Of course, we share intent, we challenge each other, we also give each other feedback, but ultimately we also agree to disagree and to move towards the same direction. So Carmen, it seems that we have successfully passed all levels and we completed the saga.
Yeah, I agree. And as you said in the intro, I mean that's only the beginning, right? So we are just starting.
Exactly. I think as we said, we constantly need to seek improvements and to unlearn, relearn. And I'm pretty sure 2021 is going to be great for that. So that being said, 2020 has been a tough year for everybody. And the world has transformed in only a few months. So Carmen, it will be interesting related to what you said before about making our games a place where players can make the world a better place, that you share a few examples.
Sure. So let me share some of the initiatives that we did at King during this year. So the first one is like during the confinement, right? So we knew that people were struggling. I mean, it was quite hard for everyone, right? So in order to try to make this tough experience a bit easier to go through, we gave them unlimited life so they could, at least keep playing and having more moments of magic. Also, following, as Delphine said, the goal of making our games a place where players can make the world a better place, the team contacted a charity with a mission to help global reforestation. So I mean I love this one because I mean that with this event, players can plant trees just by playing. So I mean this is an easy way to reforest the world, right?
So of course, we are expecting all of you to play the games. The last one is Farm Hero Super Saga. So if you want to also contribute to the reforestation, I really encourage you to play and to play all of our other games. That was a nice way to close the presentation. Carmen, thank you very much. Thank you as well to the Fun and Serious Festival to have both of us today. It was a pleasure to share a bit more how we are working at King and specifically in the lab. Here, as you can see, we are also growing the team. We are hiring at the lab. So either you are a professional looking for new and exciting adventure, or a player willing to contribute to creating the next experiences, please contact us. You have here the link to apply via our career website, and you can search for the lab. And if you are a player, please send us an email to the comunidad.barcelona@king.com, and we'll connect you with our gaming experts. And I think that's it from us. It was really a pleasure.
Muchísimas gracias por habernos invitado. Voy a por lo menos aprovechar a decir algo en español.